the Fill the Funnel podcast with Jeff Swan
and Tom Slocum.
We're here to help you crush your targets
with tactical tips and insights you can act on today.
Don't have a fancy tech stack, a big budget, or even a huge team to lean on?
Well, it's time to get that solved today with FTF Fridays.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Fill the Funnel. I'm joined by myself, Tom, along with my co-host, Jeff Swan. How we doing, Jeff?
Doing fantastic, man. Thanks.
Awesome.
How about you?
Good. Today we wanted to talk about a fun little buzzword in the market, something that has come up, known as servant leadership. And what does that actually mean? How can you do it without even having the title? And ultimately, by doing some of these things and leading with this servant mentality and insight, how do you set up yourself and your team to be just as successful? So I want to open it up right out here with you, Jeff. What's servant leadership? What comes to mind? Is it a negative thing for you, a positive thing? What triggers in the brain when you hear this term?
My initial knee-jerk reaction is, oh no, another buzzword. And something that can be used and abused by people out there to serve their needs. But when I really think about it, though, what it means to be a servant leader is thinking about, not about yourself, not about your goals, not about whatever you're doing, thinking about who you're serving, who you're leading, and how can you not only get out of their way so they can do their job, but also how can you kind of accelerate what they're doing? And you said it in the intro of lift people up. So when I'm looking at prospecting as an example, I'm looking at prospecting to a market that I know I can help. I know that me reaching out and getting over my fear and making a phone call, I'm serving somebody by doing that, by making a cold call, by sending an email, doing that stuff. I'm serving them because I'm giving them insights and something that they can use that they've never seen before. So I'm serving them. Yeah. Now, when you take that to leadership, when I'm leading a team, it's the same thing. My team might, in my career, I've mostly managed professionals, people who are educated, experienced, they know what they're doing. And usually they're bigger experts than me in their specific field. So as their leader, I'm not sitting there telling them what to do and holding them back and, micromanaging them. I'm serving them. What do you need to do your job better? How do you, what are you doing during the day that I can help? How can I help you and then get out of your way? Right? That's to me what I believe is servant leadership.
I love it. I think people get wrapped up in the word servant, where it's not that, it's serve. Right? It's not, I'm a servant for you. I'm not chained to be, there for you, right? To be doing your slave work or doing all this stuff. It's not that word, right? No. What it is about serving. And when you lead with that mentality of, I've got a team, maybe I'm a new manager, maybe I'm an SDR and I have all my team here. Maybe I'm the lead, maybe I'm the VP. How can I serve them to succeed? That's what it means to me, is looking out for them, being 10 steps ahead for them, looking at their day to day. You know how many managers I don't know that don't do ride-alongs in their day to day, or every once in a while just hopping on with their team? Even in a remote world, you can do this over Zoom, watch them go through. And once they finally sit down and serve them by giving them their undivided attention for a couple hours and just watching their day to day, guess what happens every single time? Oh, I didn't know you were doing it that way. Yep. Oh, wait, did you know you could do this? Like, how long have you been doing this? Right? Yeah. Things get seen and you can serve them and be better. And that's not micromanaging. This isn't managing numbers, all that good stuff. It's serving them. And I love the way you phrase that. I love the way you put it in that way, because people get wrapped up in the whole word of servant. It's more around service, not a slave and mentality, or, oh, you want another manager just bowing down to their team. Because there is a fine line with leading them too. There are tough calls you got to make. There are things you're going to have to do. Yeah. So there's a fine line with, I'm here to serve you, but I'm also here to lead you. And there are going to be tough decisions where I might have to let you go, or we might need to be put on a PIP. And so people think that once you get too far into the servant leadership, you can't make those tough calls because you might be too close, right?
This is the distinction, right? Is when you're talking about servant versus service, it's very different when the connotation is, because if I'm serving you, like I'll go back to the example of the prospect that I want to help.
Yeah.
I'm not doing what they're asking. There's a famous quote. I think it was, what was his name? Henry Ford. He said, if I did what the market wanted, I would have built a faster horse.
Okay.
Yeah. So what he was referring to there is that a lot of times people think they have to be a servant leader. They have to do what their employees ask them to do or expressly need them to do, right? It's not the case. You're leading. Your purpose is to lead, but you lead through service, right? You lead by giving them frameworks. You lead by helping them out through their problems. You lead by removing challenges and roadblocks that are in front of them. And you do that. You also lead by giving them examples of what to do. So I know one thing that you do, and I do well as well, is when something needs to be done, when the team is not working very well, when they're not doing their job, or they're not getting the results, even with all their activity, you'll roll up your sleeves and actually get to it. You'll pick up the phone and book 5 meetings yourself to show them that it can be done. So you're not serving them in the sense of like you say, like a servant. You're serving them by showing, hey, it's possible. I know what you're doing is hard. I'm doing it too. It's possible. And that's service to me.
That's it, right? Is do the things that you're telling them to do. And a very clear distinction in all of this too is, in order to be a servant leader or serve that way, it doesn't mean you actually have to do the skill very well itself. I think a lot of people think in order to be a leader, they have to do it all or be successful at what they're trying to teach others to do. But we've all known this major debate, and this may be a poll for LinkedIn one day, is, do you need to be able to do the job in order to lead? And I don't think so. I've known a lot of people that were really bad on the phone. They struggled, but they did it, right? But they struggled. They were maybe very neutral in the way that they were running their numbers, right? They weren't high achievers, but they were good enough. But when they stepped into leadership, holy cow, man, they made everybody else around them better. They were a great leader, and they were able to lead the job. Yeah. But they didn't do some of the things that your best rep could do. I don't know how to cold call like you do, or holy cow, your emails are so really good, right? It's all about serving and empowering those people to be better. It doesn't mean you have to do it all, but be able to show you can, like you said, right? I've cold called my whole life, even when I've been a manager of teams. I am not above you. It doesn't mean I shouldn't be doing that. Do I have a lot on my plate? Absolutely. But can I make the time? If you want to make the time, you can make the time, right? And so you have to be wanting to do those things. And a lot of leaders, once they get off the phones, they never want to go back. But I don't think you should stop. I think it's something you need to put into your schedule. I think you should be prospecting in some fashion with your team, whether that's second voicing for them, coming over the top. And again, this has nothing to do with a title. If you're not even a leader today and you're just an SDR, do that for your team, right? Help them out. Lead from afar. A title means nothing, in my opinion.
No. A title can help you get instant respect and certain things that make the job easier, but it doesn't mean that you need it. You don't need it to be a leader. Leaders have people follow them because they lead. And it doesn't matter whether you have the title or not. You can be a leader in the room. You can be the voice of reason. You can be the person that always tries out the new technology first, or tries out the new messaging, is always willing to be the person to, say yes and not be afraid to actually try something new or do what is asked of them by the people of the organization. I mean,
look at sports. How many rookies come in and demand the attention of a locker room? They don't have a title. Yep. They're the brand new quarterback. They just lost their vet, right? You're coming in, but they just start leading because that's all they know. They don't wait for it to be handed to them or a title. They pick their places. They respect the environment that they're in. That's a big part of it too. When you're leading or trying to, what I had to learn on was you don't have to be the loudest in order to do that. You don't have to be speaking up at everything. You don't have to be putting yourself out there all the time. The best leaders that I know just are able to do it at the right moments. And they know when those moments are. Sometimes they know to keep their mouth quiet. Other times they know when it's appropriate to speak up and respect their team. right? This isn't about being brash or walking into team meetings and tooting your horn, being like, I'm the guy, I'm the girl, like, yeah, I'm the shit. It's about, knowing when to lead. And that's how sports do it all the time. These guys come in the sports world and they demand the attention of a locker room within just a few short months. But they have no title. They have no credentials. They've never won a Super Bowl or at a championship. And they're talking to vets that have won before, but are able to teach them something new or speak when the right time is and make an impact.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so when you look at this whole concept of servant leadership, is the most important thing really is leadership. You have to lead and you have to have that innate ability to lead. But then the second part, once you have that ability to lead, just like those sports, the athletes that you're talking about, is you have to actually have a mindset around service. So it's kind of the two things at once. It's leadership, which is natural for a lot of people, or it's a learned skill. And then there's the service mentality. Anything that I do, as an example, in the locker room, when a team is going through a slump and they're not winning and they're not doing what they need to do, those leaders that you're talking about, Tom, they pick it up. They pick up the slack and they are in service of their team to be the voice of reason, to be somebody that they can look up to, say, watch me on the ice, watch me on the field, watch me on the phones, watch me. I got you. We can do this together. And they do it in service of the team to pick everybody up. And that's something that creates, to me, servant leaders. It's having both of those things together: natural ability to lead or earned ability to lead, plus a service oriented mindset.
Yeah, just spot on. It's an interesting world. You don't have to have these titles. You don't have to do and wait for that tap on the shoulder to begin doing some of this.
Exactly. And like, so we've got a few minutes left.
Yeah.
When we're talking about service leadership, let's talk about something we heard the other day that was not in service of reps. So we both heard on a podcast, I'm not going to name it. Anybody listening, you might have heard it already, but some senior sales leaders were talking about how a rep could be replaced by a $19 software.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I don't necessarily disagree with what this man was trying to say. I actually think his intent was right. I think what he's saying is smart. And I think it aligns with a lot of what we teach at Outbound SOS.
Right.
However, the way it was positioned, even though his mentality was there and his intent was good, the way it was positioned was not in service of that rep. Basically, he scared the shit out of the rep so that the rep would change his behaviors. And there's absolutely a time and a place for that. Sometimes you need to do that. Tom, you mentioned the PIPs. Sometimes you have to use that as a leader, right?
Yeah.
But there's ways that you can go about the communication that doesn't demean a person, doesn't make them think that they're not important, right? And so when you're looking at it, the better approach, instead of saying, hey, what you're doing, you could be replaced by a piece of software, is instead actually tell them, you know what you're doing right now is, here are the specific consequences of the things that were happening. And just for our listeners at home, what this rep was doing was getting up every morning, spending an hour sending out dozens of emails, maybe even hundreds of emails through a marketing automation tool. And that was their prospecting. That was their prospecting. So no cold calls, no social, no engagement. They were basically just marketing to a mass audience, which, again, why I agree with the sentiment was that that's just not the way to do it. Prospecting is supposed to be a one-to-one. Even if you use a sales engagement tool, you have to mimic the way that you do one-to-one. Right? Yeah. You mimic it and you use automation for the things that you would normally do over and over and over again. But that doesn't mean that you should treat every prospect the same. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do your pre-call research and all these things. So again, I agree with the sentiment, but the better way to go about it is that the way I approach it with people, at RevLeague, our customers, our clients, whatever, is I look at it more of like, okay, so if you can send out hundreds of emails through a marketing automation tool and you might get something. But what's happening is you're burning through, let's say you send out 1,000 emails a day and you might get a couple meetings a week. Mm-hmm. So you're sending out 5,000 emails. you're burning through 999 of them to get even some type of response. Right. Most of the time, that response rate is going to be I'm all set, leave me alone, F off, right?
Yep.
Then you're burning through all those leads. You're costing your company or yourself tons of money on leads that you're buying at an average of anywhere from 10 cents to, $1 a contact. You're hurting your reputation in your email providers. So, Tom, unfortunately, we know all about getting banned from Google and things like that, right? It happens.
Oh, yes.
It happens, right? So you get banned, you get unsubscribes, you get spam complaints, and all of these things together are consequences of what happens. So instead of focusing on demeaning the rep and making them understand this from a perspective of you're shitty, I can replace you, instead serve them by demonstrating, showing them the consequences of what's happening, showing them the impact of burning through thousands of leads without impacting your numbers enough to make it even make any lick of sense.
It's the truth is you got to take ownership of that. It all starts from the top bottom very often. Right. And so, could I replace that person? Anybody can be replaced at any given moment. But for you to lead with that or even say that to somebody is just downright disrespectful, right? At that point, as a sales leader, you should be able to have a discussion with them on figuring out how to do it better, but not sitting there telling him, hey, that's all you do? I could replace you for $20. Well, then how does that make somebody feel, right? And they're only doing what you've tasked them to do, and set that up. So, it's just a matter of leading, serving. There's a lot here to compact as we wrap up here. And I'll let you do the formal wrap up here. But my final thoughts are, you don't need a title to do this. You can serve. A leader is a leader. I believe they can be made, and I believe they are born. I think there's a two-way to do both. I've seen a lot of people step into leadership, and I've seen a lot of people be born into it. They just have the knack for it. But ultimately, you don't need to wait for the tap on the shoulder. Help your team. It's not being a servant. It's serving. And I hope all of our listeners, right, as you listen to this, you look into this more, just know how to help people around you. That's all it comes down to is serve them. If you see something that could be better, speak up and help a lot of people out just by, helping them succeed any way that you know how, and being willing to elegantly step in and help them do that is the best way to do it. But why don't you go ahead and send us off here?
So just a quick wrap up. When you're looking at servant leadership, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. Think of these two things. One, you must be a leader, whether that's an innate ability or you can earn it through hard work and dedication. You have to have that first. Second, you have to have a service mentality. What I'm doing is serving my employees. I'm serving my coworkers. I'm serving my prospect. Okay. Put those two together. You have yourself a servant leader. So do it. Like I said, like we both said, whether you have the title or not, you can practice this today. So go out there, be a servant leader, and happy hunting.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fill the Funnel podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite platform, give us reviews, and tell all your friends about us. Till next time, happy hunting.